Welcome to this urgent explainer. We are diving straight into a massive cybersecurity alert that's literally sending shockwaves through the web hosting world as we speak. If you manage a website, a server, or if you're anywhere in IT, you've got to pay very close attention to what we're breaking down today. We're looking at a critical zero-day exploit hitting CPanel and WHM users across the globe. Look, this isn't just some minor glitch. It's a fundamental crack in the security of one of the internet's absolute most widely used control panels. We're going to walk through exactly what went down, how the industry reacted in real time, and most importantly, the exact steps you need to take to lock down your digital infrastructure right this second. Okay, let's dive right in. This situation forces us to ask a pretty terrifying question. Could attackers entirely bypass your server's login? Normally, you'd confidently say no way, right? Because we rely on passwords, two-factor auth, firewalls, all that good stuff. But with this specific vulnerability, the terrifying reality is that the front door to your server effectively vanishes. Attackers don't even need to guess a password. They don't need to steal any credentials. They can bypass your server's authentication completely. It's basically like walking up to a massive bank vault, totally ignoring the security keypad, and just pushing the heavy steel door wide open. That's the level of access we're talking about here. So let's get into the exact definition of the threat we're facing. This flaw is officially tracked as CVE 2026-41940. It's a critical authentication bypass vulnerability, and it's located right in various login paths within CPanel and WHM. But what does that actually mean in plain English? Well, it means an unauthenticated user, literally someone who has zero business being anywhere near your system, can gain full administrative control panel access. We are talking about the absolute highest level of privilege here. With this flaw, a malicious actor can manage your core files, they can manipulate or steal your databases, and they can completely hijack your email accounts. It is essentially handing over the master keys to your entire web hosting kingdom. Now, to really illustrate the stakes we're dealing with today, let's compare the two scenarios. Think about an unpatched server. This is literally a disaster waiting to happen. Because an attacker gets root-level admin access, they can quietly slip in and install malware to infect all your visitors. They can pull off complete database theft, stealing all your sensitive customer data. And honestly, perhaps the most dangerous part, they can use this access to pivot directly into the underlying server infrastructure, infecting other systems on that exact same network. Now, contrast that nightmare with a patched server. A patched server is locked down and secure from this specific bypass. It's running the updated configurations that actively block those unauthorized login paths. The difference between an unpatched machine and a secure one, it's the survival of your digital business, for sure. So the absolutely crucial point right now is figuring out if you're vulnerable. Take a look at these specific affected versions. It spans from the 11.110 series all the way up to WP squared. And, the reason this list is so terrifying is that it proves exactly how widespread this threat really is. This doesn't just hit one obscure, outdated version of cPanel that nobody uses anymore. No, it impacts almost all currently supported versions. If you're running cPanel or WHM today, the statistical probability is overwhelmingly high that your version was on this list right before the emergency patch dropped. And the timeline of this exploit, that just makes the whole situation even more alarming. Look at this. The emergency security patch was finally released in April 2026. But security researchers noted that exploits of this exact vulnerability were first spotted in the wild all the way back on February 23, 2026. And let's be real, it was probably being abused even earlier than that. This creates a really terrifying ticking clock effect. I mean, for months, this vulnerability was just the Wild West. Attackers had totally free rein to exploit this flaw, while administrators were completely unaware that their authentication systems were basically useless. Months of undetected admin-level access, that is an absolute lifetime in cybersecurity. So let's pivot for a second and see how this translates into real-world action. When a zero-day vulnerability this massive drops, how does the industry actually handle it on the ground? We're going to look at a real-time case study from April 28, 2026, focusing on Namecheap. They're one of the largest web hosting providers in the world, as you probably know. Their response gives us a perfect blueprint of the chaos and the extreme measures required to handle a threat of this magnitude. Now, what's really interesting here is the truly drastic nature of their response. Just listen to the statement from the Namecheap support team. They said, as an immediate precautionary measure, we have applied a firewall rule to block access to TCP ports 2083 and 2087. Let's break down why that is so incredibly significant. Ports 2083 and 2087? Those are the lifeblood of cPanel and WHM access. By applying this firewall rule, Namecheap wasn't just, quietly fixing a bug in the background. They were literally locking the doors to the control panel entirely. They willingly took down functionality for webmail, web disk, and all control panel access for their users, because leaving those ports open to the internet was just way too dangerous. And they weren't alone. Other major hosts like KnownHost, HostPapa, and InMotion Hosting had to do the exact same thing at the network level. Just walking through this hourly timeline from April 28th, you can perfectly capture the absolute scramble that was happening. At 3:37 p.m. Eastern Time, Namecheap issues the alert and blocks those critical ports as a precaution. The maintenance window begins. And for 3 agonizing hours, the entire hosting world is basically holding its breath. Then finally, at 6:35 p.m., CPanel releases the emergency patch note and the fix itself. Namecheap immediately kicks into gear, starting the massive task of applying it across their whole infrastructure. By 10:04 p.m., they successfully apply the fix to all reseller and Stellar business servers. And by 10:42 p.m., all remaining servers are resolved and access is safely restored. It took over 7 hours of emergency lockdown and rapid deployment to secure the perimeter. That right there shows you exactly how seriously the major players took this. Now you might be wondering, well, what if I'm not a server administrator? I don't manage firewall ports. I just rent some basic hosting space for my small business website. If that's you, you really need to hear this clearly. Even if you just rent hosting space, you are still at massive risk because this exploit grants root access to the actual server. Any single website sharing that environment is potentially compromised. You must reach out to your hosting provider immediately. Do not just assume they've updated cPanel. Send them a support ticket, jump on a live chat, and explicitly ask them to confirm, in writing, that your server has been patched against CVE 2026-41940. All right, for these server administrators and developers tuning into this explainer, here is your concrete emergency action plan. This is exactly how you lock down your infrastructure right now. It's a strict 3-step process. Step 1, you absolutely must run the terminal update command to force the patch. Step 2, you cannot just assume the update worked flawlessly. You have to manually verify the patched version using the command line. And step 3, if you cannot verify that patch immediately, you need to follow Namecheap's lead and completely block external access to ports 2083 and 2087. Whatever you do, do not leave those ports open unverified. So let's get into the exact commands you need. Here is the emergency patch command you have to run right from your terminal. It's /scripts/upcp-force. That -force flag, it's absolutely vital here. It guarantees that your system pulls down the absolute latest secure releases straight from cPanel, completely overriding any cached or delayed update schedules you might have set up. Honestly, if you manage a vulnerable server, I highly recommend you pause this explainer right now, open up your terminal, and go run this exact command. Okay, so once that update script finishes running, hold on. Do not immediately open your firewalls back up. You need to run this second command first. /usr/local/cpanel/cpanel-v. That capital V command is going to output the exact version of cPanel currently running on your machine. You need to cross-reference that output to make absolutely sure it matches the secure, patched releases officially documented by cPanel. Only after you have manually verified that your version is secure should you even think about unblocking access ports 2083 and 2087. Trust but verify, right? We have covered a lot of ground today, from the terrifying mechanics of this authentication bypass to the rapid, drastic responses we saw from industry leaders. So I want to leave you with one final, absolutely critical question. Have you patched your servers, or is your front door still wide open to attackers? Please, don't let your digital infrastructure be the easy, low-hanging fruit for malicious actors trying to exploit this 0-day. Take the structured information we went through today, use those terminal commands, contact your hosting providers, and go secure your systems right now. Thank you so much for joining me to break this all down, and please, stay safe out there.